Shaun Wallace, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How's this year been for you? This 2020, this weird year that's been going down.
It's been tough for everybody, me included. But you've really got to make the most of the situation. And although it had drastically affected my legal work in terms of not being able to actually appear in court, I still have been able to actually manage to do the odd application here and there. But so far as the chase is concerned, again, it was very, very difficult. We managed to go right up until the last week in March. Then obviously, due to the various restrictions placed upon the entertainment industry at large, we also had to lock down, and we only really recently came back in September. So it's been tough, but I've managed to actually reconnect with my fans in terms of sending them Twitter messages, doing loads of Zoom quizzes and the like. So it's been okay.
Yeah, because we briefly spoke on the phone the other day, and I got the sense that you're someone that really needs to keep yourself busy and active. Because I mean, this year, I guess you can be kind of. I hear it from a lot of people; they're getting really sort of bored, frustrated, and I guess for you, you're just like, right, I'm going to do something to make sure I'm keeping myself going.
Yeah, I've always kept myself active. But what's been really fantastic is that I've been able to actually train every single day. I mean, I normally train 5 days a week anyway, but it's given me time to actually really put in some physical training. Which stood me in good stead for when I did Don't Rock the Boat in the summer. So
yeah, I was going to say, what was that experience like? Because I haven't caught up with all of it yet. I saw the waterfall experience that you had, but I mean, what was that whole experience like? It looked fantastic.
It was the hardest physical and mental challenge that I've ever undertaken. And the reason why I did it, I wanted to see whether or not at the ripe old age of 60, because I turned 60 in June.
Oh, wow.
Whether or not I could still, motivate myself physically and mentally. And I came through it, and it was a fantastic experience. Alongside 11 other celebrities, we got on really, really well. So me and Craig Charles were mates for life, because we were just constantly taking a mickey out of each other, constantly, every single day. And Adam Thomas, who was formerly in Emmerdale, he's a guy I love really, because I mean, he was the only one who was actually rowing in a £15,000 Rolex watch and a sort of £1,000 Gucci glasses. Cool. And I formed a really good friendship with Jack Fincham of Love Island fame, and the Fincham and Wallace Roadshow was really, really good.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, what a year to become 60, in the 60th year for your 2020. A bit of a weird year to celebrate it, I guess. Yeah. I saw Gary Lineker became 60 today, actually, as well.
Yeah. Lineker was 60 today, and sadly, the passing of Maradona. He was 16 October. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're into football, aren't you?
Bradley Walsh was 60. I'm 2 days older than Bradley, so me and Tony Hadley, who's a good mate of mine, we're born on the same day. So I was born 10 past 12, just after midnight. And I don't know when Tony Hadley was born, but we're born on the same day. So a lot of good people are 60 this year.
Yeah, the 60th year. So you're really into your football, aren't you? Are you a big Chelsea fan?
Big Chelsea fan. I was a bit disappointed with last night's result, because I've got loads of Spurs fans, and I didn't watch the game yesterday live because I was in the studio recording, and I left strict instructions not to tell me what the result was. I switched my phone off until I finished recording late at 8:30. Then my cab driver came out and he said to me, "Oh, sure, it was a 0-0 draw," and I was disappointed. But as long as we didn't lose to that lot, it was fine.
Yeah, it wasn't the best game. I did watch parts of it yesterday.
It looked a tactical battle between two teams who are, on the ascendancy. I mean, Mourinho, obviously our former manager, is a master tactician. He knows how to win championships. So if anybody can finally break Tottenham's duck of winning major silverware, it's him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm a Newcastle fan, so I haven't got too much shout to shout about silverware. I don't think we know what silverware is. Really.
Well, we beat you the game before, but we went up to Newcastle. Something like 5 times in our last 7 meetings. You've beaten us, so I was a bit wary when we went up to St James's Park. I've never actually been up that stadium. It must be fantastic, but I'm looking forward to going.
Yeah, no, I've been there a few times when I was younger. It's a fantastic stadium to be a part of. I feel a bit sorry for, the fans, I think, at the minute, because the way the club's ran, Mike Ashley, it's a whole different story up there, and Steve Bruce is getting a bit of stick, but he's doing the best of what he's got, I think,
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's been your sort of opinions on the whole this whole COVID situation in terms of, we're having the vaccines coming out. You've seen these protesters in London, the sort of anti-lockdown, anti-vaxxers. I mean,
you're gonna get the two polarized wings. You're gonna get people who've been sort of COVIDed out. I'll use that expression in terms of suffering lockdown, and the faction who are taking the more sensible approach, which is the faction I belong to. That it's been hard for everybody, but we've all got to row together in the same boat, and if we do, then we can actually defeat this terrible disease which has claimed so many lives, not only in England but around the world. And it's good that the scientists have worked their socks off really to actually try and find what is likely to be a cure for this vaccine, and let's just hope that it is a proper cure that will actually rid the COVID virus forever.
Yeah, because I mean, you do get the side of people saying, lockdowns aren't necessary and all this, but at the end of the day, we're only doing it because we really have to. It's not one of these things that we're doing, half-heartedly, because you think of businesses affected, people that are having to wait on cancer treatment, people, and men's rates, especially men's rates and suicides, I think going up quite high.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it affected everybody's mental health, and sadly so. Because man's natural desire is obviously not to be confined and constrained, but it is a necessary evil, in my view. That it does show that if you do lock down and everybody adheres to rules, it does control the virus. But the problem is that once you do lock down, people sort of spring back to normality, and that's why you see the sort of up and down nature of the sort of cases rising in terms of the virus. So if people do adhere to lockdown, then I think that we should be sensible in terms of not going back to our old ways, and that's the way in which the virus spreads.
Yeah,
I suppose that's human conditioning in human nature. Once you're suppressed, you want to be free, and you want to sort of make up with your mates. You want to sort of basically mingle in that way. But it's hard. Not everybody sort of detached like I am, because for me, I think it's a no-brainer to actually adopt a sensible approach and try and as best as they possibly can to actually adhere to the rules.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you've got to think of the economy. Obviously, this is the worst economic crisis we're now enduring since in the last 300 years. It's even worse than the 2008 economic disaster. So I really generally feel for all those businesses which have gone under. My own view, for what it's worth, is that I think we should all we've all got to contribute to it in terms of paying more tax, I suppose, in order to actually try and get our finances under control. The furlough scheme was very, very good. It was something which I advocated at the start, because how are businesses going to survive if there is lockdown? But at the same token, it's all got to be paid for. We can't be constantly borrowing money on the never never, because we'll be saddling a debt on not just the next generation but generations to come. So I think it's incumbent upon and I have no qualms about it. People may say, well, you can say that because you've got two jobs, but it's all about everybody having that sort of community sort of spirit and ethos, whereby we've all got to pay our fair share in order to actually help drag this country out of the economic mire in which it finds itself in.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about the Christmas period, where we're going to kind of relax the rules over that kind of Christmas.
I personally think it's madness. The problem is that there's been no real coherent strategy by this government, sadly, and it would be fair to say, and again, I might be sounding controversial, but when the initial stages of lockdown, they took a sort of blasé approach to it. I remember the famous quote by Matt Hancock in January 2004 that this is going to be a relatively minor epidemic, and almost 55 to 56,000 people have lost their lives. And I still maintain, I might be wrong, I still maintain that when the rest of Europe was having a sort of coherent policy of trying to actually control the virus, under the auspices of possibly the European Union, because Britain was still stuck in its sort of throes of Brexit liberation, that they wanted to have a go-it-alone approach. And this sort of herd mentality was totally wrong. And the reason why everything changed volt fast is when Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, caught it. Next season, there's no sporting, and it was just completely abrupt. Then, our leader has got it, the Prime Minister, and I'm glad he recovered. Let's have it right. So you wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I, along with everybody within the country, was hoping that he would pull through, and he did pull through. But that doesn't mean to say that the government shouldn't have had a proper, coherent strategy of having strict lockdown. When I say strict lockdown, not lockdown for 3 months, because I think it's like, you want to bake a cake and you half bake it. And when you come out, it's sort of soggy, it's got a soggy bottom. And that's exactly the analogy I would draw in relation to the lockdown. We came out far too early. Yes, I can understand the fact that people were going through, loneliness, mental health problems, mental health issues, economic disaster. But if you want to actually control it properly, I think we should have come out of lockdown probably at the end of the summer. And again, people might say, are you mad, Shaun? Because what happened when people came out of lockdown and the numbers tended to decrease, what you saw was that people were getting together. They thought that the virus was basically defeated. The sun's out. Oh yeah, it's just another day, isn't it? Then the next thing you know, you see the spike. And that's what Boris Johnson was saying. You're going to see the spike. Why are you going to see the spike? Because you came out of lockdown too early. And it's easy for people to sit back and criticise because who would want to be a prime minister or any leader leading a country through how to deal with a problem like coronavirus? Yeah. But when you look at the United States and the sort of blasé approach called by Donald Trump, it was absolutely disgraceful. Because all he was interested in was not people, but pure self-interest, pure self-greed. And one of the best things which happened in the 20th century, in the 2020, was that Donald Trump lost the American election.
Absolutely. Well, I think he's about nearly a month later. I think he's just starting to accept that he's lost. I think this week is just really
get out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think the US in particular, they're going to have a long time recovering from this. I mean, Biden will probably have a lot more stricter approaches with it. But
well, what you find, I think, the more right wing the government, the more you put the economy before people. So if you look at Brazil, if you look at India, they, their approach in relation to how to deal with the economy was, I thought, extremely lax and blasé, as opposed to having a firm grip. Whereas you look at the leadership shown by, and I think she's shown fantastic leadership, Nicola Sturgeon. She's shown brilliant leadership. If you look at Jacinta Ardern in New Zealand, New Zealand's an island country, but the way in which everybody pulled together, they virtually eradicated the disease. And if you look at the fact that, now that they've got sport back, now that they've got the economy sort of kickstarting itself, that is the approach which Britain should have adopted, being an island nation. But as I say, it's sort of Brexit mentality, that we're going to do it alone, we can do it ourselves, we can beat this. Was the wrong strategy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Brexit as well. It seemed like, although whether you were a Leave or Remain, it seemed like, when this latest election happened, we have so many these days elections to talk about, but it seemed like we were kind of having some kind of plan in place with Brexit and stuff, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. I don't think there's a deal or anything.
Well, I totally disagree. All they wanted to do was to get out of Brexit, get out of the European Union, and basically say, look, we want the same deal as the Norwegian-style type relationship with the European Union, or the same type of relationship with the sort of Canadian-style deal. And if you're coming out of a major European bloc, fair, well and good. But Britain seems to think that because we are Britain, we can actually strike deals around the world. And, it might not necessarily mean that the deals we strike around the world is going to be economically beneficial to this country. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks when, as I say, the transition period ends. And if we're out a deal, then Britain thinks that it can sort of strike its own trade deals with the sort of freedom and independence to do what we like. Now, that's going to be really interesting as to whether or not it's going to be in the beneficial long-term interest of the British people as a whole. I'm not talking about the concentrated few, because the concentrated few who basically wanted Brexit are the sort of 1% who are basically have the sort of finance and the sort of influence to not be affected by anything. Whereas I'm looking at how it's going to affect the British people as a whole. And I sadly think, unless we still have a relationship, an economic trading relationship with the European Union, and be able to actually strike deals around the world, then Britain may, as I say, have that sort of degree of independence and autonomy and the right to self-determination that it wants. But Trump's out of office now. But Joe Biden, the incoming US president, he is a multinationalist.
Mm-hmm.
So he's into various coalitions and partnerships, and he's going to look down at Britain with a great deal of economic disdain. And if it doesn't sort out its Northern Ireland problem in relation to one of the various sticking points within the sort of discourse between Britain and the European Union, then Joe Biden and his Irish ancestry is going to come to the fore, and he's basically going to say, you know what, just like Obama was going to say, get to the back of the queue.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Do you think as well with the UK election that the reason why the Tories had the big win was it the Labour's stance that they need to be either we are Remain or we are Leave? Was that the fact they were kind of in between?
I wasn't impressed, sadly, with the leadership strategy at the last general election because it wasn't committed in any way, shape, or form. It was fence sitting and. All Britain, what Boris Johnson played upon was the fact that people were tired of being part of a global organisation, economic organisation, and they wanted their degree of independence. And he played upon that. I've always seen Boris Johnson as an opportunist type of politician because originally he was a Remainer, and he saw the Irish Remain chance. In trying to claim that prize, what he paid after most, the keys to number 10, and that was the best route to it.
Yeah,
so, he was dithering at the last moment, and the next thing you know, he's switched, and all of a sudden becomes a darling of the right. But this COVID problem, which he's inherited, could be his undoing, because if by pandering to the right of the Tory party, who really want to put the economic interest over and above slightly the human cost to lives, then you might see in the next few days what's going to happen in relation to the Tory rebellion. And the only thing which will prevent a complete collapse of his authority is the Labour Party supporting. Now they're like how I don't know if you know the play Richard III, where Lord Stanley was hedging his bets as to who to go on the side of Tudor or Richard III, and he was watching what was going on, and he put his lot in with Henry Tudor, and that's why he won the battle. Well, I think that's the approach which the Labour Party are adopting now. They're basically saying, okay, we don't want to be seen to be criticising the government. Because you don't want to be scoring points in that particular way. Yeah, you can criticise their approach, and quite rightly, I think Keir Starmer was showing very good leadership at this present moment in time. But even then, his position is somewhat not firm in relation to what way he's going, so far as not in terms of the economic future of this particular country.
Yeah. I suppose it's like you're someone that keeps yourself very well informed, but are you finding the news quite hard to watch at the minute? Because I watch news for half an hour and I feel depressed after half an hour. You have the COVID, you have Brexit, and you have Donald Trump saying what now? Then you have the Black Lives Matter protesting and stuff like that, and divide that's caused.
It's been a really diverse year with, on one hand, you've got the terrible death, what happened, the unacceptable way in which George Floyd was murdered.
Absolutely.
But the COVID, you've got the collapse of the economy. You've got Donald Trump sort of spouting off his nonsense. So the one thing we've been devoid of is really, really good news. And sadly, I'm going to throw into the mix the death of Diego Maradona.
Oh yeah.
which has been really, really sad. So, 2020 has not been the best year in terms of good news. Hopefully we'll turn a corner when we actually get into the decade.
Yeah, things can only get better, as they.
Yeah, I always say that, the DV song, things can only get better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess go back to the world of quizzes, the quizzes that, being a quiz master like yourself. You've obviously been adapting, I guess, with the COVID situation.
I'm zoomed out when it comes to quizzes. I can't do enough Zoom quizzes because it's the way in which I can sort of, reach out to people to try and give a little entertainment in their lives by taking, being a Zoom master. When people ask me, will you take part in this quiz, or will I sort of hop into this sort of quiz parties, I'll always do so, because that's my way of basically lifting spirits, and I'll do it. I always send constant Twitter messages to people wishing them happy birthday, or sort of sending them messages of support and sort of encouragement. And, as I've said to you before, with fame comes responsibility. And I think it's incumbent upon people like me to try where they can to help lift the gloom of which has enveloped our society.
Yeah. So when did you start getting involved in quizzes, in the quiz world? Like, when was that sort of start for you?
1999. I don't know if you know that I've written a book called Chasing the Dream.
Yes, your autobiography, yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I first started, because as a young boy, I was fascinated by quizzes. I was always impressed how, even at the tender age of 5, watching University Challenge, how people can actually, buzz a question and get it correct with cheering and things like that. And I wanted to be like that. And what they say about procrastination is the thief of time. And if you sort of sit on the comfort of your backside in your sofa, you'll never ever get things done. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see how good I really could be, not for any prizes which may be on offer, but to test myself. And if there's a prize at the end of it, then obviously I'm entitled to claim it. So that's how I got into the world of quizzing. I wanted to see how good I was, rather than sitting in the comfort of my sofa. Yeah. And I never envisaged, if I was to look back on my life 20 years ago, when I'll say that I was Shaun, who my career was sort of, bumping along, wasn't sort of hitting the heights that I'd always dreamed and envisaged it would be. I never would sort of thought 20 years later that I'd be fated as a sort of quiz god around the world. So
yeah. In the quizzing world, like, is it all quite friendly, or does it ever get like quite very competitive and rivalry?
Very competitive, and one of the advantages I had, I was never part of the quiz league scenario. I just did it from the company. My mates knew how good I was. Mm-hmm. And that was the advantage, I suppose. And it's a strange thing to say, but another advantage I had being a quiz was being black, because I used to be totally underestimated. They used to look at me, who's this geezer? Yeah, you're about to find out. That's what served me well, especially when I was doing Mastermind. I knew who everybody else was because I had watched them on quizzes shows, and so I had that strategy. But I was an unknown quantity so far as I was concerned. And I was like Clint Eastwood, the man with no name, rode into town, shot up who needed to be shot, and walked out alive.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it. It can be a pretty competitive world in the quizzing life. So were you? This probably may be a silly question, but were you very academic at school?
I was bright. I love learning. And as I talk about in my autobiography, it's all well and good having that photographic memory, but if you don't know how to answer exams under the pressure of time, then you're going to struggle. Yeah. And it took a while for the penny to drop so far as I was concerned. And I remember, as I say, 41 years ago, when all my friends were at university, and I was sort of on the dole, having to do a retake in one of my A-levels and wondering, where's my life going? Because I had no plan B. I was like the Muhammad Ali of my year. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be the greatest. But if you talk the talk, you've got to be able to walk the walk. Mm-hmm. And it was very, very soul destroying, really. But I suppose out of adversity, you sort of learn. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book as well, because I want people to realise I wasn't born a Mastermind champion. I wasn't born famous. But if you do have setbacks in life, and sometimes you've got to take a step back, and analyse where you went wrong, and try to actually rebuild yourself, reconstruct yourself with the help of people who've got your best interests at heart, But ultimately, you've got to be able to want to do it for yourself, because if you can't do it, then you'll never do it. And sometimes you need to take a step back forward in order to actually take those giant steps forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, you're certainly the Muhammad Ali of the quizzing world, I'm sure. I mean, I love some of his quotes. I think my favourite Muhammad Ali quote was, "I'm so mean, I make medicine sick."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great. So so you've done Mastermind and the Weakest Link, haven't you?
I did the Weakest Link first in 2000.
Yeah.
When I did the Weakest Link in 2000, I didn't take part in the daytime show because they realised how good I was as a quizzer. They put me in this sort of Champions League one. And I got the first 11 questions right. I got the next few wrong. And I remember when Anne said, "Why are you voting Shaun off?" They turned around and said, "He's too clever." And I remember seeing Anne in the corridor after. She gave me a big hug and she said, "Oh, I thought he was going to win." I said, "Oh, that's the breaks, Anne." And the biggest compliment I was ever played by that show was that when I won Mastermind, I was a quiz question. And no greater honour. Twice I was a quiz question in the week, and twice the person got it wrong. The first one was that they asked who was the 2004, which black lawyer was the 2004 Mastermind champion, and they said Shaun Williams. And another way in which they asked the question in another show was that what was my profession, and they got it wrong. Brilliant.
But did you ever try for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Did you ever think about going on that one?
I tried like everybody else, but I didn't know that there was syndicates used to form, and I wasn't part of any sort of quiz league or quiz syndicates. But I'm telling you this now, the harder the question, the better my chance of winning.
Okay.
And, if I'd have got to the £1 million question, I'll probably have won it. Wow. But in saying that, if you were to ask me what would I prefer to win, Who Wants to Be a £1 million winner, or Mastermind champion, being the first black person to do so, it would be the last every single time. You know why? You can spend £1 million.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll never have that taken away from you. Absolutely. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. I mean, did you see that? There was that drama, I think, at the start of this year. It was about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with the coffin and the cheating. Yeah. That was really interesting. Just seeing how it all worked and
it's really good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that was really interesting watch. I really, really enjoyed that. Did you have a system in how you remember like facts and knowledge?
Okay, after I take part in a quiz, I'm going to be sort of revising for about 2 hours. So what I normally do, I revise, I test myself on the toughest quiz shows like University Challenge and the Mastermind, and see how many questions I get wrong. That's what I'm going to remember.
Right.
If I know the answer, I know the answer.
Yeah.
If I get wrong, I'm going to remember. And the way in which you can sort of train your mind to actually recall or get involved in quizzes is to have an interest. The more interested you are in a subject, the easier it is for you to remember it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, they're really. I remember seeing a program as well with Darren Brown. He was doing something with someone trying to get them to be a quiz champion. Like, you know, it was some sort of brain thing that he managed to do with them, and he managed to become. He had a week with this person, just like with all these books, and just he said, "I've got all these books. I just want you to read them all, and just have your finger going through each line like that, go through them." And and then he had the quiz thing, and I think he did really well in the quiz. So I find it fascinating how the brain works, because I mean I've tutored some people with autism before, and you know sort of their academic level was very, very low in terms of reading and writing and and communicating. But then like they have the countdown come on, and it'll be the number that they have to get to, and just like that, got it. And it's just like how
certain people have certain skills.
Yeah.
As I say, it's the same with quizzing. Every Achilles has a heel. I mean, I don't like soaps. I don't watch soaps. If I'm asked a question on soaps, I'm going to guess it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love, most quizzes are good because their history is good. Remember, history tells the origins of the beginnings of society and life. And if you can have an appreciation of, events which happened in history in terms of as it happened, then you may have an appreciation of the history or the origins of a certain subject, the history of music, the history of politics, the history of economics, and so if you can understand the historical origins of a subject, then and you find it interesting, then your interest in that subject is going to grow.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Do you feel like you have what is your specialist subject, like what your bread and butter, I suppose?
My strongest subjects are history, sports, I'm quite good at geography, good at literature. I'm rubbish and crap at video games and soaps.
Okay, I'm going to be.
As I say, every Achilles has a heel.
You know what? Next time watching The Chase and I see a video game or soap question come up, I'm going to be like, right, let's see Shaun's poker face.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I found sort of over this year, I've sort of been trying to do a bit of sort of learn about sort of history and stuff. And one case, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but there's this one. I find the assassination of JFK absolutely fascinating. Like they've seen the Oliver Stone film and that movie. The Lee Harvey Oswald situation. I read this book as well. I think it's called Best Evidence. Do you think, from your history knowledge, that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
If you was to ask me, I would say no. Mm-hmm. If I was pushed, I'd say no.
Yeah.
Because I reckon that there was a shot from the grassy knoll,
the grassy knoll, yeah.
The grassy knoll, which came in front of the presidential motor cavalcade.
Mm-hmm.
So who shot that? I think there's a conspiracy between probably the Russians at the time getting their own back for having been humiliated in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I think they managed to seduce a disgruntled ex-Marine who had sort of Russian, sort of Cuban sympathies in Lee Harvey Oswald. And it was interesting how he was assassinated 2 days later.
Exactly, yeah, just too perfect, isn't it? And the case was closed.
Yeah. Case closed, we'll never know. But I mean, he did murder that police officer, trying to apprehend him as he was escaping from the sort of Dallas, the Pottery building. So I still think he was involved. I think the shadowy hand of probably the mafia, who had an axe to grind against Kennedy. There's loads of people who had an axe to grind against. You could even say that probably Lyndon Johnson had an axe to grind against Kennedy because they hated each other. Not really, they didn't actually. He was a Southern Democrat, and you had a sort of liberal, dark-thinking Democrat from the North. And the only reason he chose Johnson was to actually try and attract the sort of right-wing elements of the sort of Democratic Party and the sort of left-wing elements of the sort of Republican liberals, and basically point the finger that Milhouse Nixon would make a worse president. Look, he didn't even shave for the meeting. And it was a razor-thin win for Kennedy. Then you got Castro could have had a hand in it because obviously with the Cuban Missile Crisis, if it was down at Castro, he would have let the bombs on the island and pressed the nuclear button, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation today. But I think there are a load of people who could have been part of this sort of global conspiracy who could have had a shadowy hand in the assassination of Kennedy. But by and large, I think it was one man who was acting with another, who wanted to have the global fame of assassinating a US president.
Yeah.
Sitting target, traveling in an open motorcade, which was madness in itself. What type of protection was that? Kennedy's skull was blown off.
Yeah, no, it's insane. So that was something. I watched a documentary earlier this year and just fell down this rabbit hole of JFK, who was involved, who could have been. It just baffled me. Like when you shoot the president, you get a bus and you go home, then you walk through to town to go to the cinema, and that's where you got arrested at the movie theater. Just seems a really odd story to the official story. I'm sure he was maybe aware of what was going on or the situation, but to kind of, I don't know if he acted alone in that for sure.
I don't think he did. I think there was that shot from that grassy knoll.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to talk to you obviously about the chase, and there's been a bit of news with the chase recently, because I know you have a new chaser that's come on board. I think Anne's spoken out and wasn't too happy about it. When a new chaser comes on, does it change the because I know I always just think you, the Beast, and they're the three, and then Paul came in, but they're the kind of ones that
as I say, if anybody should have the hump, it's me, and I've never had a hump because I'm the world's first chaser. I was the first person in the world who can call himself a chaser. So when I was it was me who had to go through all the auditions in front of 3 different ITV commissioning panels. I was working that show by myself for 4 months. They brought in Mark. Great, that's good. Good. We're both starting out together. They brought in Anne, which is brilliant. Every chaser who's come on board, I've always welcomed them with open arms. It looks like clickbait. It looks like, self-serving. Why are you having another chaser? It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But I hope it doesn't become a media circus in terms of having too many chasers, because it's like being in the Beatles. Everybody, every quizzer in Britain would love to be a chaser. It's the most popular quizzer in the world. And I feel privileged to be a chaser, because it's like being in the Beatles.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It just does it change the dynamics at all when the new chaser comes on? No,
not from my perspective. No. When he first came on, I welcomed him with open arms, because you know what? It was a great story. He used to be a contestant. Now you're a chaser. You made that step up.
Yeah.
It's like the dream. Anybody can achieve. You can be a mere contestant to a quizzing icon god, and that's what he is now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you've been against some contestants, is there any contestants sometimes where you've been like, I mean, I'm sure you want to beat them all, but is there anyone that's ever been a bit smug or been like, I really want to beat this guy?
No, you've got to be professional all the time. But listen, we've got all the advantages. I'm a professional quizzer. I'm used to the studio bright lights. I'm a barrister trained to think on my feet, think under pressure. So, any little advantage they get, use it. I'm not offended. All right? If you want to be rude, fine. If I knock you out, then get out. That's what I'm always saying. One brilliant one. One contestant came and he goes, "I don't rate you as a chaser." Okay, and I knocked him out in 3 questions. And he tried to, placate the situation. I said, "Yeah, get off." But I'm the only chaser who'll go and see the contestants afterwards, whether they win or lose.
Oh, that's good.
So,
because I guess sometimes it can. Do you ever feel a bit? Obviously, like you say, you stay professional. But for example, when you've got a nice group of people and you've come within a second and you've just wiped out in the final chase,
they came here with nothing. They're leaving with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And conversely, if they win, when I lost the one time, the biggest win for a team was £90,000, the girl was crying. Fantastic. I was gutted that I lost, but I went and see all of them afterwards.
Yeah,
because it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, I mean, what's it like working with Bradley Walsh? Obviously, he's kind of the people's host, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. As I say, the one thing I like about Bradley, as I say, we sort of had a parallel upbringing, really. He's a Watford lad. I'm a Wembley lad. He liked football. I like football. He used to be a professional footballer. I played part-time professional football. He gave up football and did the sort of hard yards working in working men's clubs. Sometimes in front of 5 people. And he persevered with his talent. And I always say this, there are millions of talented people of Bradley's sort of skill who are much better than Bradley, and that talent will never see the light of day. But he happened to be in the right place, right time, seen by the right people. And that's why I always say to people, always make sure you put your best foot forward, because you never know who's watching you. Yeah. Everybody needs that bit of luck. I don't care how talented, you still need that bit of luck to take you to where you want to get to.
No, absolutely. But he really does. He's kind of the perfect personality to have, I think, with the chase.
Yeah,
you've got you guys, and
when we did the first pilot, we had the presenter whose name is going to be remain nameless. He was so wooden. I've seen trees more animated in terms of personality. And when I saw Bradley, and it was the day before my 49th birthday, we filmed the first pilot.
Oh wow!
This was, he's not bad, Bradley Walsh. Comedian, actor, a bit of a lad. He could sort of add something to it. He's gone on from strength to strength.
No,
the chase has been the perfect platform to catapult him into the sort of entertainment stratosphere that people can only dream of.
Yeah,
and he's earned it.
Yeah. Well, was it weird? Was it weird for you, like when the chase really kind of became really popular, when you kind of turned into this from quizzer to celebrity? Was it weird, kind of having that experience of people really knowing who you were, where you were going out and about?
Yeah, it didn't bother me in the slightest. I suppose that comes with experience and age. I don't get caught up in the hype. It's like, hey, Shaun, what? Because I remember what it was like 20 years ago. I was Shaun who?
Mm-hmm.
People could walk past me on the street. Mark and Paul would say the same. We were nobodies 20 years ago. Now we're, and that's why I think we all get on well. We're all relative. We're all grounded.
Yeah, keep yourself grounded. That's good. Yeah.
keep yourself grounded. You know what I mean? I'm only as good as the last question answered correctly. No better than that.
Yeah. Well, do you ever like get like the press or anything like that trying to sort of dig into? I mean, I know you've got you're pretty open in your autobiography book, but do you ever have like the internet or press trying to sort of dig a few things about you?
You know, on Wikipedia they said I was married, and I've never been married. And I asked them to take it down, and next thing you know, I'm constantly married. Then they did an article about me, and I said, right, that's it. I'm not having now. Bosh. Got my agent. If you don't take it down, guess what? You'll be hearing from my lawyers. So I'm not going to stand up for nonsense. You know, I'm public property, but I'm not owned by the public.
No, absolutely, yeah. It must be difficult, like to have people kind of wanting to, well, they'll ride of anything, like true or false. Yeah,
I don't mind that, because listen, the one thing I'm conscious about, the only reason I'm so mega famous is because people make me famous. So that's why I'll stop. I'll send autographs. I'll do that because I do it because I want to. It's my way of saying thank you. As long as you're not rude or intrusive, fine. If you become rude and intrusive,
yeah.
We
mentioned, you know, the horrific way that George Floyd was murdered. Have you ever had to deal with, you know, racism, whether it be in your Barristan days or as a TV?
I never, as a kid growing up, you would call the N-word, the C-word, you know, it's happened, and you had to sort of fight your corner and fight back. You know, the area which I grew up with, you know, if somebody called me that, guess what? Bang, straight in the mouth. That's how we were, and we could look after ourselves. You know, when you go into the world of work, I was never ever told that I can't do this because I'm black. Yeah, there are subtle ways in which the concrete ceiling is always put over the head of people of colour, people who are black, people from an ethnic background. But I've never allowed that as an excuse to actually prevent me from going where I want to go. And I'm proud of the colour of my skin. I'm proud of the community in which I grew up with. And I'll always represent them, and to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because obviously there was, and right you say, there was a lot of anger with the George Floyd situation and the protests and things. But it seems to become a bit more diplomatic rather than the
well, you're always going to get the initial fire and rage, as I say, you know, and it's going to die down or become more circumspect. But as long as we never lose sight of the fact that we're not going to tolerate this, that's kept in the public eye, then that's we must always make sure that we keep that message strong.
No, absolutely.
You've got people like you know, the great Lewis Hamilton and you know, black role models like Marcus Rashford, who as a tender age of 22, he is an exemplar of what I would want in a black human being.
Yeah, and just the fact that he's coming, you know, he's trying to do something really positive with the school dinners for kids, and he's coming up against a brick wall almost. It's not nice to see at all. Like, you want people to get behind him.
Well, he's taken on the government and basically got his own way. And what I love about him is that he never forgot the times when he was hungry. About 15 years ago, he suffered that same hunger. You know, not knowing how his poor mum was working hard and, you know, really struggling to put food on the table. So he's never forgotten that, and he's never allowed that to actually just always stay in the forefront of his mind. Even though, as I say, he's used his natural prodigious talent to take him to, you know, well-deserved fame and glory.
Yeah, not a bad footballer either, is he? You'd have him at Chelsea.
Listen, when there was a time I thought he might want to leave Man United, I'd say, Chelsea, sign him. sign him.
Yeah.
He's just outrageously skillful.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw that. Yesterday when United, we were recording this for the weekend of football, and you know, they came back to win their game, United, and the cross that Rashford put in for Cavani. Oh, beautiful cross. Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously, similar to Don't Rock the Boat, I suppose. Like, would you ever do anything like I'm a Celebrity? Would you ever go? No, because Anne did it, didn't you?
Not because I'm frightened of anything. Not because it's because of the fact that I'm still a practicing barrister. The only reason I did Don't Rock the Boat is because there was a sporting challenge to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Were you watching when Anne was in it? Like,
I don't really watch reality TV. Obviously, you know, I was aware she was in it. I sent a message of support, but I'm not going to sit down and watch reality TV, which I find boring.
Yeah, no, I don't watch stuff like, the programs you get like Love Island. I don't mind anything Anton Deckerman I can watch, but stuff like Love Island and all this, I can't get into any of that really, to be honest. So what, I know you're going on holiday next month, so you're going to be looking forward to that. But what kind of you're hoping for the next year to bring for you?
For everybody else, because I'm a sort of altruistic type of thinking guy, I just hope that everybody gets back to near normal. And the pain and suffering that we've had of 2020 will be a sort of bad memory which we can sort of never forget, but sort of hopefully erase from our everyday lives. For myself, as I say, the reason why I call my book Chasing the Dream is I'm all about setting goals and challenges for myself. So I'm just looking forward to an exciting new year for myself. Hopefully Chelsea will regain the Premiership, and England probably win the sort of European Championship, and we have a fantastic Olympics, and everything's just rosy and dandy, I suppose.
Yeah, let's hope for good things to come. And Shaun, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been great talking to you. Enjoy your holiday and keep doing your thing.
And I hope everybody who's watching this podcast keeps all stay safe and have a wonderful Christmas. Okay, we all can't go to Jamaica, but have a wonderful Christmas. And please do it so safely, and have a wonderful, wonderful 2021.
Okay, thanks very much, Shaun.
Yeah, bye.